150mm rear travel e-mountain bikes. Not too much travel, not too little, full powered motors. Which one is the best one for you? So I've been riding these two fine examples right here, the Specialized Gen 4 Levo and then the brand new Pivot Shuttle AM extensively. And I've learned a lot. And I said I was going to make a video comparing the two. But then I thought, hey, there's two other bikes that are completely relevant to the discussion. The other one is the DJI Amflow PL Carbon, and I've ridden that quite a bit. And also the other one is the Santa Cruz Vala, the best e-bike Santa Cruz has ever made. To kick things off, let me start out with a top line discussion of what bikes are involved here. So we're going to start out maybe with the bikes that are present here. The others are in the field. And the first one is the Specialized Gen 4 Levo. And the highlight is they have a big battery, 840-hour battery that is swappable. They have storage as well. They also have a 600 battery that should be coming out now. They have an extender battery that is 280, and everything is dialed. They finally figured out, you know, the subtle things, the connectors, the display. How do you display the battery? How do you manage the battery when they're both working? And you know, this bike really is about possibilities. You know, it enables possibilities with range and power. You can ride in turbo all day. Has a fast charger if you buy the S-Works, and then, you know, a normal charger on the non-S-Works. And then it's a mullet, and not only is it a mullet, it's a mullet only. You know, for the first time in their history, they said no 29ers. They really put their foot on the ground and said nope, you're not going to ruin our bike the way we want to spec it. The top model is 15,400, but they also have a lower model now. They make it in aluminum, 6,100 for the aluminum bike is what we're looking at here. Next bike we're going to discuss, since it's right here, is the Pivot Shuttle AM, designed and released just a couple weeks ago. It's like their third generation, so another bike with a lot of experience. And 150, 148 rear, 160 DW link suspension, and it has the CX5 motor. The CX5 motor, Bosch is one of the best if you don't have a custom made motor for you guys like Specialized does. And it has 100 Newton meters of power out of the gate, and it has a beautiful display. The price range on this thing is $8,500 to $16,600 fully loaded with Fox Neo live valve. Next bike in the lineup is the Amflow PL Carbon. So this is the DJI bike that everyone's been raving about in Europe. And it's because of the motor. The motor is a special motor. What makes a motor special? It is compact, light, energy density, has so much technology. It's got this beautiful display, wireless remote. It's got a fast charger. And then nobody would spec them initially, maybe 3 years ago when they were developing this product. So they made their own company, and the company is called Amflow. So Amflow, it's a 150, 160 travel bike. It's very similar to an older generation Specialized stump jumper or an older Levo. DJI is kind of a black mark with the US government and the US drone industry, so they're kind of erasing DJI from the branding of this bike. It's an Amflow bike with an Avinox motor. The last bike I'd like to discuss is the exciting Santa Cruz Valla. Santa Cruz Valla, you know, I came at the test ride with few expectations, but it shocked me. It shocked me on how well it rode, because it rode so much better than the old Santa Cruz e-bikes. Because one, they went with a different suspension instead of their VPP, which is crowded and kind of had a lot of anti-squat. They just went with a Horselink 4-bar suspension with their own build on it, which was a very beefy, very free-moving suspension. So it is a beautiful bike. And they went also ditched the Shimano motor, which I predicted, and they went with the Bosch motor. So the price on this thing is $6,000 for the a brand new alloy model, which is super cool, all the way to 13,900. And their claim to fame is it's light, it's mullet, and it's 47 pounds. But because of that, for some reason, and it's also sleek. Because they made it sleek, they only limit you to a 600 watt-hour battery internal only. You can't have that 800 that all these other bikes in the Shootout are packing. All right, so that's the top line. Why don't I take you to the uphill power test rally, and you know, you'll see which one is the fastest and the most supportive of these motors. First up on the speed test is the Pivot Shuttle AM with the CXR CX Race motor, CX5, with the 100 Newton meters of torque. It is a runner, that's for sure. Quiet, and shortly I will let you hear how the motor sounds on this standard segment right here.
Overrun.
So as you can hear, you can barely hear the motor, and this is with full turbo. Everything is fully pegged to the max, including overrun. It's a very quiet motor, both uphill and downhill. No rattle whatsoever. So here is the finish line, and it finishes at a time of 4:12, staggering achievement. Alright, the next test is the specialized Gen 4 Levo and S-Works configuration. This has the 111 Newton meters of torque, and in testing it's just a few seconds, about 10-15 seconds faster than the non-S-Works. And here is the sound of the motor. So there we go, a little bit louder than the Bosch CX5, and dare I say louder than the Gen 3 motor. But unlike the Gen 3, it is very consistent. It just does not change pitch as the motor heats up or gets old. So here we go to the very top. Very supportive motor, and so much configurability is what I can say about this. Right here, hit the button. And 412, a virtual tie with the CX5. So awesome performance. Alright, here is the Amflow PL Carbon with the DJI motor, tested back in February of 2025, and the word to describe it is frenetic. This thing has so much torque, it's really more than advertised 105 Newton meters. So we actually hit the top speed of 20 miles an hour right around here. Our hill is barely steep enough, but listen to the motor. So there it is. It is quiet, no rattle on the downhill as well. To be noted is they've made firmware updates since then to make it faster, unleash the potential of the boost mode. We did hit the boost mode on this like 6 times on one run, and it was about 10 to 15 seconds faster. So the hill is barely steep enough to take advantage of all this power. So amazing motor. And finally, to summarize, we'll show you a slide of these motors side by side. The first three are the most interesting: Amflow 346, and then the Gen 4 and the Pivot Shuttle are 412. And speed is just a number, right? But here it is in comparison. The 2023 Levo was 448, and then the EP8 motor is 525. So that's how big the difference are. 10.6 mile per hour average on the EP8 versus 15.5 on the Amflow. A Blur XC cross country with 200 watts of rider power is about 16 minutes. And finally, we'll note that the Santa Cruz Valla we tested had the old firmware, 85 newton-meters. So we expect it to be close to the Pivot Shuttle AM. Next part of this video, let us talk about the geometry. Let's get into the geometry discussion with this cool table I collected for you guys. Note that every bike is 150 rear travel and 160mm front travel. The Specialized and the Santa Cruz are mullet, and the Amflow and the Pivot are 29er, and we put the flip chips in low height configuration when possible. All right, so we'll go from top to bottom, starting with reach. 455 for the Levo, 452 for the Amflow, 461 and 456. So the standout here is the Pivot Shuttle AM, 461 millimeters of reach, kind of long for a medium. All the bikes are tested here in medium. All right, wheelbase, 1223, 1227, 1251, 1240. Again, the standout here is the Pivot Shuttle AM, 1251 millimeters of reach on 29er wheels. That's a pretty long bike, and some people actually choose to size down because it's too big for them. All right, head angle, 64 and a half, 64 and a half, 64. So 64 is the magic number, and the Valla squeaks under that, 63.9 when in low mode. Note that the Levo has a headset angle adjustment, but that we just put that in neutral. It can go 63.5 to 65.5. All right, effective seat angle, they're all in the magic window of 77. The slackest is the Pivot Shuttle AM. BB height 350, 345, so 340 for the Valla. So that is pretty low for the Valla in low mode. And then chainstay length 45, 435 is the standout on the Specialized Levo. When in stock configuration, the chainstay length is adjustable and it is in short mode. Notice that the Amflow and the Pivot are both fairly long for 45 since they are natively accommodating the 29er. All right, something interesting is crank length. Crank length on the Levo and the Amflow is 155, which is pretty progressive. Short cranks, and then the Shuttle, Pivot, and the Valla are 160mm. Sizing, the standouts are Specialized and Santa Cruz with 5 sizes. So very cool. The Amflow has no small with 4 sizes. And then adjustability, all of them have flip chips for the height, but really in reality the Amflow and the Pivot, since they do both wheel sizes, you're really limited on the height adjustment, because what the height adjustment flip chip does is it just compensates for the wheel size. So you can't really, you're kind of pigeonholed to the height depending on what wheel size you choose. The standout is the Specialized with headset cup adjustment, height adjustment, and chainstay length adjustment. The Santa Cruz has height. It also has a leverage adjustment on the shock for a different feel of rear suspension. And finally, not in this chart is the insert length. How long of a dropper post can you put in these bikes? And they are all pretty darn good except for the Amflow. So on all of these bikes, I can put a 200mm dropper on these bikes on a medium for my 5'7" height. On the Amflow, I can only put a 150mm. So that's something limiting to some. All right, hope you enjoyed that geometry deep dive. All right, now to the important part. How do they ride? How do they descend? You know how they climb now? How do they descend, and how do they do technical climbs? Let's start with the Pivot Shuttle AM, and this is a confident descender. It is pretty light and it's pretty stiff on the rear end with its super boost. Fox 36 in the front, so we wish it was a little stiffer. but certainly you could see it handle this terrain pretty well. Initially, we were having a hard time turning it, but I think maybe we were just used to a mullet. We converted to mullet, and man, this thing carved. Also, with the mullet, we were able to ride it in the high position or low position, which worked out really well. This thing could carve, so definitely impressed. 48 pounder and pretty agile machine up and down, so that says a lot right there. So pretty long wheelbase and longish chainstays, but you really just gotta throw this bike around, move your weight, very low dropper post, and it loves to jump. So hats off to the Levo Shuttle AM. Next bike we have is the Specialized Gen for Levo, and this thing is an enigma because it is heavy, and you think, oh, it's not gonna jump well, but man, you just gotta throw your weight around. But its real strength is in its traction and handling. It has a lot of traction. You know, this Genie shock really does work. It's not all hype, and it feels like it's got more travel. Probably the pluses of all these bikes. Feels like it has 160 millimeters of travel. So really well sorted package, very easy to ride, up and down, very supportive on the uphill and on the downhill. Man, you could ride it for days and days. And this is what the alloy bike is what we used on our ultra endurance rides. Third bike in the lineup is this Santa Cruz Vala from Valhalla, and this thing is a revelation. It just hugs the ground. Not a lot of anti-squat, very active suspension. Again, it feels like it has more travel than 150. Very capable, good traction, likes to jump. Probably the best handling bike in this group if I had to choose one. It really made us look good. Very impressive. Of course, it had cheater tires. It had radial tires, which is a real revelation. If you haven't tried it, it just makes it conform to the ground. And finally, we have the Amflow PL Carbon. We don't have a lot of footage on this, but we've been riding it for 6 months, so we know the bike really well. And you know, at the end of the day, it is a good handling bike. It's not great compared to this group because these bikes are just some of the best handling e-bikes ever made. But it is a capable bike, and we did a lot of tuning on our PL Carbon, put some coil front, coil rear, and it is capable indeed. Wish we could use a longer dropper post, and wish it was friendlier with a mullet. And but for lighter, medium weight riders that will not push the frame beyond its limit, it's very good. You made it to the end, and let's talk about the bottom line. You know, which one is the best? What are the pros and cons of these bikes? So let me start with the Levo. The Levo is kind of an enigma. You know, people look at it and they say, I don't want it. It's too heavy, or this thing is too fat. You know, I don't want it. I don't remove my battery. So, you know, that is its weakness. It's heavy and it looks kind of big, and so people discount it right away. Like, it's not for me. But then when people ride it, they're like, oh my God, that thing is good. And then when they ride it some more, it goes, oh, I can put an extender. Everything is dialed in this bike. So, and what I've been discovering lately is this removable battery. I never used to deal with that before. It's very useful. You know, it enables a lot of possibility. If you have the terrain and you have the motivation, I've been doing 15,000 foot rides in 5 hours, you know, and it just a battery swap and a fast charger. I have another video here explaining how I do that. But basically, it's a bike that enables a lot of possibilities. It's very well sorted. They've worked on so many details. The highlight is I would say the Genie shock. They used their old suspension, do some new kinematics, but the Genie shock is really so good. It's so supple. 150, it feels like 160. For me, I'm only 150 pounds, but I can deal with the weight. You move your body a lot, and the thing with the weight is if the suspension supports it and the brakes will stop you, then you could work with it. It's not gonna jump off little root jumps and whatnot, but it has so much traction. It's kind of complementary to what you do. Let's get to the pivot shuttle, and it's a native 29er and has a big 444 chainstays, and it's got the best of the best on the Bosch. So it's got the latest. So now the motors are up to par. They can even compete with the DJI motors. So strong. 100 newton meters is so good. Why is it so good? Because it just helps you when you need it. You know, and it's very efficient on the battery as well. Much more, I think, more efficient than the Levo. The Levo just boosts you a lot. So very efficient on the battery. The 800 watt hour, you can go for days on this thing. With an extender 250, you're good. Where this bike really stood out for me was, you know, I didn't like it as much as 29er. And the thing too, when you have a bike that's 29er or mullet, is you lose the capability of the flip chip. You can't really adjust your geo anymore. It will just compensate for the wheel size adjustment. So you're pigeonholed to one or the other. So when I put it on the low mode, on the 27.5 rear, and I just did it in the last 2 weeks, I'm able to ride it on high or low, and man, this thing shreds. This thing shreds. I wish I had 155 cranks, had 160, but now I get it. I get the agility and the speed that they're looking for. Big knock on it, the price. On the high side, it is $8,500 on the ground floor to $16,600. And what I'm more concerned about always is the ground floor. You know, how low can you get in there? So $8,600, that's the highest base level of all these bikes. And now the Santa Cruz Valla, it is an incredible riding bike. And the fact that they have it from $6,000 to $13,900, the range is awesome. The alloy, it's been riding well. They put less features on it, but it is an amazing bike. It rides well. It's their best bike, and you can buy it in alloy. You can buy it in carbon, lightweight or heavy and good value. I would go for the alloy. It's got a CX-5 motor. The only downside on it really is the fact that it comes only with a 600 watt hour battery. But I do have friends who are very happy with it. They're very fit. It's their first e-bike. They're good to go. They'll buy an extender if they need it. But if you're a heavy person, if you're not as, you know, if you don't pedal as hard, if you have tall mountains, the 600 watt hour battery could be a problem. All right, the last bike I'll talk about is the Amflow PL Carbon. And really, the highlight here is the motor. The motor is so fast. It's almost flawless. You know, it's hard to knock this motor because even on their first generation, they figured it out. And then every firmware update, you know, they give you a 28 mile an hour mode. They give you 1,000 watts. You know, so they're able to adjust on the fly based on laws and based on what the market is doing. The bike itself, the geometry checks out. You know, it's not too bad, not too bad. I wish it was a 27.5 bike. It's a native 29er, so it's kind of high. The big knock on it is it's a little high off the ground, and the seat tube, the dropper post I'm able to use is 150 millimeters for my height. And for you guys who are not so tall and you want a long dropper, not so good. So because of the lightweight, it's a little flexy. You know, it just doesn't carve the way I want it to. Jumps pretty good, but it's not a standout bike. But it is a standout motor, that's for sure. And at the prices they're selling at, what is it, $7,500 and $10,200? That's pretty darn good. And now they're developing a support system. So there you go, my friends. The wrap up. Please let me know in the comments what you own or what is on your short list on this particular hot part of the segment. Thanks a ton.